tell me, exactly what is it that you do?
You know, one of these days we'll have to get Uncle LD on here. He's like one of the funniest guys ever. You know, while we were away, we actually won an award. We won the second annual Coolest SOB in the Conservative Blogosphere Award, sponsored by I'm41.com. Y'all were hurting on some choices, weren't you? Anyway, but you know what? This is actually my second award since 1969. And at the risk of sounding overly boastful, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Don't worry, I refuse to let this go to my head. I vow to sit on the throne only when necessary. No more leisurely throne sitting. That's how we got in this mess in the first place. And welcome to Intellectual Froglegs, Season 2. Every time government places a new fee or new regulation on an American business, it's China that jumps for joy, and it's China that runs and cashes a check. Every time government punishes an American company, a Chinese company is rewarded. But make no mistake, you know, and putting aside just for a minute that, well, China is communist China, aka sworn enemies of freedom, actually kind of like our government. But seriously, our government works for China. You know, China is our competitor in the global marketplace. But our government, our congressmen, are giving them every advantage in every aspect of the game. And competitor means they're on the other team for you left-wing fruit bats. If this was a basketball game, China's team would have like these big robo-steroid players, you know, robo-dudes playing. Our basketball team, we'd have 2 illegal aliens, a union rep, a lawyer, and a lesbian. You know, and with the same thing applies to when the EPA slaps a new fee or new regulation on our fuel and energy companies. You got the Middle East benefiting. So to summarize, if you're a communist or a Muslim, the United States government is looking out for your best interest. Looking for solutions to this monstrosity of a federal government within this monstrosity of a federal government is insane. It's so broken, they couldn't let go if they wanted to. It's held together with like union tentacles. And make no mistake, unions, there may have been a use for them in the past, but no more. Seriously, unions are the enemy of freedom, the enemy of innovation. They're the enemy of industrial evolution. No joke. You know, many of you guys know about this, but Ford Motor Company has had a plant over in Brazil since 2001. And I mean, this thing is an efficiency phenomenon. It's more automated and more flexible than any U.S. plant. It's able to produce up to 5 different vehicle platforms simultaneously on the same line. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means if demand drops for like one model and picks up for another, Ford does not end up with a stockpile of crap they can't sell. They can rapidly alter their product mix. But not here in the USA. The unions won't put up with that. You know, if unions this powerful had been delivering blocks of ice before refrigerators, we probably still wouldn't have refrigerators today. You know, here in the USA, aka the unionized states of America, even if a job is obsolete, the union forces us to keep paying for it anyway, and at an absurdly inflated price.
I'm a spy in the house of love.
I'm a Verizon customer. I don't mind Verizon turning over records to the government.
I'm a spy in the house of love.
Nobody is listening to your telephone calls.
In the USSR. They can't stand the idea that he's president. And a piece of it is racism. It's the sense that the white race must rule. That's what racism is. And they can't stand the idea that a man who's not white is president. That is real.
You take away everything and that because that's what white supremacy is.
You know, one of the coolest names ever is Lord Action. Anyway, Lord Action gave us the popular dictum, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it has never been demonstrated so beautifully as by what's happening right now in our federal government. They're completely out of control. Like children, not only do we have Marxism thriving in the executive and legislative branches, including a bunch of Republicans up there, a bunch of rhinos. But now the United States Supreme Court just told Arizona, a border state, that requiring an ID to vote is unconstitutional. And I used to live in Arizona, so I know what they're going through. It's the same federal government that refuses to protect Arizona's border with Mexico is now telling them, after they're overrun by illegals, they can't check IDs to vote because it's unconstitutional. You know, if you can't check IDs to vote, there is no way you can prevent massive voter fraud. And there's no way they don't know that. So, God bless Arizona for defying these overreaching busybodies in our federal government. D.C. has no business telling Tucson what they can do.
You've been hit by a smooth criminal.
I tell you a story also about a colored preacher who, and this was his big day, and he thought he was going to get a big collection. That was for Christmas, you know. Yeah. And when he got the plate back, there was hardly anything in this thing, hardly any money at all. And as he was up in the pulpit there, and as he started to leave, he says, "Now, congregation," he says, "I'm going to leave now." And I looked at that collection plate, and there was very little in there. It was mostly very small change of buttons. And I'm going to pass out of the church now. And as I pass down the aisle, you will notice that there's a piece of mistletoe hanging from the bottom of my coat.
And look at their entire premise for their amnesty that's not really amnesty. You know, and it's not only flawed, but it's absurd. And I heard Paul Ryder repeat the same crap earlier.
Do you believe we're going to find 11 million or more people where we don't know who they are and where they are and round them up and kick them out of this country?
But listen to what they're saying. So if you cannot catch everybody, you don't try to catch anybody? Are you serious? Now, I'd like to see you apply that rationale across the board to all the laws. And what about the damn border fence? Congress passed a law in 2006 that we're supposed to have hundreds of miles of border fence. They've built 36 miles. In 7 years, they've built 36 miles.
Most of the illegals caught crossing are from Mexico or South America, but thousands are classified as OTMs, other than Mexicans, including hundreds from nations that sponsor terror. These are the records we obtained at this federal detention center near Phoenix, Arizona. We found illegals from Afghanistan, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Sudan, and Yemen in custody. This Arizona rancher doesn't want to be identified because he fears the Mexican cartels who smuggle drugs and people near his property. This Muslim prayer rug was found on his ranch.
It's just one more indicator that there's a whole lot more than just a few poor Mexicans coming into the United States.
There's more. This congressional report on border threats confirms members of Hezbollah have crossed the southwest border. It also contains photos of military jackets found on the border. The Arab insignia reads, "Martyr, way to eternal life." The other depicts a plane crashing into the Twin Towers.
How can we be a country of laws when our basic God-given rights, protected under the Bill of Rights, are ignored and trampled on? How? Especially when those in charge of enforcing these laws and protecting our rights openly attack and flaunt them. And with an accomplice media telling everybody, well, it's in your best interest. It's chaos. Chaos rules the day. And you remember a few weeks ago the IRS was busted for targeting citizens? Nobody's been fired. Left-wing freaks have taken our government. They've taken our borders. They've taken our Constitution. They've taken our language. Para español, marque uno. They've taken our traditions, and they've demonized our country, the freest and most prosperous civilization in the history of mankind. And our kids aren't even allowed to say the Pledge of Allegiance to her in our own country. You know, and Ronald Reagan said,
government is the problem.
And he's right. He's right. But you know what? It's more than that now. Our biggest enemy is our government. Now, Obama says he's going to announce his new climate initiatives. How many times does something have to be proven a fraud before it's proven a fraud? This has nothing to do with the climate. It's about more penalties, more taxes, and more regulations on already struggling American businesses.
What will you do without freedom?
I don't remember saying that everybody in the country would have a lower premium. And everybody will have lower rates. I don't remember saying that everybody in the country would have a lower premium. And everybody will have lower rates, more, better quality care, and better access.
First, no matter what you've heard, if you like your doctor or healthcare plan, you can keep it. If you don't have insurance, you'll finally be able to afford insurance.
I'm telling you, if the states don't start asserting the power that is rightfully theirs, as provided by the 10th Amendment, game's over. You know, our founding fathers knew one thing for certain, that a centralized power structure was more susceptible to corruption. That's why they gave the power to the states. Lord Action said it right. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Is a warm gun. A desperate Oregon woman was raped in her home after she called 911 for help. The 911 dispatcher said couldn't send her help. Happiness is a warm gun, mama.
You know, obviously if he comes inside the residence and assaults you, can you ask him to go away? Or can you ask him to go away? Or can you ask him to go away?
Happiness is a warm gun. Happiness is a warm gun, mama.
Well, our president's over there in Europe hobnobbing with the other global communists. Anyway, while he was over there, Captain Destructo dropped a turd in Berlin. Dude gave a speech so bad they're calling it the Berlin Stinker. I didn't see it. Hey, no, I don't watch that clown. But it must have been bad because the media's making excuses for him. NBC was at fruitcake. Chris Matthews says Obama's poor speech performance was due to weather conditions. Because it was hot and the sun was bright.
The late afternoon sun in Berlin, I think, ruined his use of the teleprompters, and so...
Hey, you know what? You can't expect a man to do proper teleprompting if the weather ain't agreeable. I'm sorry to sound condescending. I just always expected something a little more noble from our first woman president. That's all. This curtain rod hanger is a leader of the free world, or what's left of it. And he can't even speak without somebody writing it down for him. He won a Nobel Peace Prize.
My remarks are not sitting there. People!
Did you know Obama has an Indian name? He's called Walking Eagle. because he's so full of crap he can't fly. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for being here. First off, during this chaotic transition of setting up the new equipment and trying to learn the buttons and stuff, I'm afraid some of your emails and notes may have gone unattended. And I apologize for that. But if it's important, please resend it. Especially you bloggers and websites requesting to be one of the Friends of the Frog. I don't want to miss any of you guys. I appreciate all of you. And by request, and this is cool here, all the music, I mean all of it, that I feature on the show now has its own page on the website where you can go buy the track from the original artists. Kaboom. And if you haven't, for goodness sake, please educate yourself on the 10th Amendment. The feds are not going to let go. Please stop by the website at intellectualfroglegs.com, sign up for the show alerts. There's also links there to hook up with me on Facebook and Twitter. And thank you for the kind donations. Froglegs are free to watch, but they ain't free to make. And you can donate online or by check. The details are at the website. Please share the show with your friends. Use force if necessary. Just tell them you're the union. And keep up those heavily medicated emails and comments, you crayon-eating liberal bichachos.